Uh, Hello, friends. Welcome to FB Live with Himanshu. My name is Himanshu Mittal and I am a sales coach. Today, we have a special guest with us, Mr. Barry from Texas. He has been into selling for more than 42 years now. So, he has started selling in 1978. I was not even born then. And he has been into selling times shares, antiques, and arts. Then he went to Latin America to help startups and train salespeople in English and Spanish. Also, he's writing a book. Great, sir, great. Welcome to Sales Talk with Himanshu, and thank you for your time. And I know you love to help people. That's why you took time to join the interview.
Yes, thank you. I'm honored that you invited me.
Sir, we would like to know more about your journey, your experience, like what have you been doing during these days. You have dogs also. I know that you love dogs. Like, would you like to share some more of your personal and professional journey?
Yes, sir. My whole life, I think I've been in sales. As a child, I was always interested in buying and selling things, and
Wow.
I really enjoyed it. As a child, I enjoyed receiving money for
Okay.
services. I washed dogs, I cleaned cars, I painted houses. When I went to college, I left college early because I got into the arts and antiques industry,
Okay.
which I really loved. And I suggest anybody who wants to do well in life is to pursue something you love. That really helps a lot
Right.
because you don't get tired. You love doing that.
Yes.
And I discovered I liked helping people. By getting what they want, I get what I want as well too.
Right.
By mistake, when I was in Hawaii selling arts and antiques, I
Okay.
was hired to be an office helper with a new timeshare company. But within 1 year, I, I gave my services with my whole heart. And they decided to put me into sales, which I did not want to do.
Okay.
And it turns out I was very good at it. And about 6 months later, they decided to send me to Mexico to help open businesses there. But I will admit, I really didn't know what I was doing. Over the next 10 years, even though I did well, I was learning, I was reading, I was absorbing. And what helped me more than anything is I had mentors,
Okay.
people that were older than me, had more experience, but I also listened to the competition. And I bought a lot of audio-visual books, tapes. I went to seminars, and little by little, I got into management positions. And I don't want to brag, but many people were looking for me to help open new businesses in the timeshare industry in Mexico. And that's what I did for about 40 years total. I became a manager, I became a consultant, and I was also a trainer in English and Spanish. And I learned a lot of things, and I'd really like to share them for anybody who'd like to know who's young in the business and wants to get ahead.
Great, sir, great. Like, your knowledge I can feel from your talk. And today I'm thinking I should grab all of the knowledge what I can from this small interview. So I'm not sure where to start. Yes, I have prepared some questions. So would you like to share some tips for the young salespeople, or like from like what are the common mistakes they do while prospecting, contacting, or closing sale, or what is something where they should focus or developing some skill?
I want to start with something and to be very clear. You see a lot of sales books and you go to a lot of seminars and you listen to a lot of people, and it's easy to get confused for
Yes.
one reason. Nobody's wrong. They want to argue and contradict each other and say one system is better than another. And the reality is this: it is not the same. Even a car dealership in New Delhi will be different from the one across the street. They're selling cars, but they have a different corporate culture. They have different training. They have a different mindset. They have different skills. They still sell cars, but you will easily get confused by listening to a lot of people. And I'm a firm believer of this because I am personal friends of at least 5 authors who write about sales and sales books. And they are accomplished people. They are not people just talking because they think they know something. They have runs on the boards. They are known in their community and in their industry. And they all agree with me. There are different types of sales. So when somebody says they have a magic wand and to buy their book and you're going to become an instant success, there is no magic wand. You also have a lot of seminars and motivational speakers. They like to sprinkle magic dust on top of you. And it sounds good, and it's a good experience, and everything they say makes sense. However, by next week, or possibly by Tuesday, you forgot it all wore off, you didn't absorb it, and you went back to your same ways. I guess what I'm trying to say is this. It is, I think, silly for some people to talk about sales because they did really well somewhere, but that does not mean they can replicate what they're doing in another sales system. I am a firm believer that somebody should study that exact industry. They should go there personally, see what's happening, and then dominate the subject matter in order to make it better, because that's what sales training is. So rather than not make it any longer, I just want to emphasize that not all sales are the same. There are generalities though, and generally speaking, there are fundamentals in sales that most people understand. Insofar for younger people, I think the most important thing to understand is to dominate your situation. The first thing you need is confidence. All you need is one sale to be confident, but to continue learning. Product knowledge, your competitors, and understanding the market and the corporate culture you're in. And if you're trying to sell against competitors, you have to be a sponge, absorbing knowledge, almost like a spy. You have to spy and study, and you have to enjoy it, because what you're trying to accomplish is to make money. Now, many people in sales get in sales because they couldn't get a job somewhere else. This is very true in the United States. So they finally went back to the newspaper for the only job they would get hired, and they tried sales. 55% of people, according to Salesforce, which is a major company in the United States, I'm sure you've heard of them.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, Salesforce says 55% of people in sales right now shouldn't be there. They should be in another industry. This is proven by the high turnover in salespeople for one simple reason. If you're on a fishing boat and everybody's catching fish and you're not, it gets frustrating. And if you're not paying attention and willing to learn, and you have a closed mind, it becomes very frustrating. And they quit. The ones that do hang on will quit in another 2 or 3 years because they have not mastered the art of sales and persuasion. There's no magic wand, but at the same time, I do want to mention, it's not very hard. If you keep an open mind and you read, it becomes fun. And I do want to say one thing. Don't get into sales just to make some money. Now here's why. Most commission-only salespeople do not have benefits. They don't have health care. They don't have 401. They don't have savings plans. They don't have anything. All they have is the money they're going to make from commission. So if you get into sales, don't get into sales just to make, I don't know, in India, what is the average income in India of working people?
Depends. I can't say it right away. What's the average? But if I say a person who is earning $800 a month, like it seems to be understood a middle class person, or he seems to be understood that he can run the show, or like he can feed the family.
Well, let's just round it off at $1,000.
Huh.
If you're not going to dominate sales and get real good at it, you shouldn't be in sales for this reason. If you have a normal job and you're getting paid hourly or per what work you do, and you have benefits, but you seek to make the same in sales, that's not a good reason, because you're on your own. And to try to jump from say $1,000 to 10,000 might be a big jump for somebody. But the whole idea to get into sales is to make money, not just the money people make. That's why people become software engineers and doctors and what have you, because they will establish a lifestyle, they will have a generated income they can depend on, and they have an education that will take them there. And it's the same thing for sales. But as I said before, a lot of people get into sales because they couldn't get another job. And that would be true of me. I went to college, I have a high school degree, but I have issues that kept me from pursuing a typical career. And I was told I should get into sales when I was 19 on an aptitude test. And I said, I'm not going to get into sales. I hate that. So I did other things, but I discovered I was good in sales. And to just make normal income in sales is almost a sin, because really it is blue sky. Blue sky means you can make as much as you want. And that's why you should get into sales. And it's not very hard. All you need is confidence. You need to know how to master it. And it's not really very difficult. You just need to pay attention. And that's the reason why a lot of people get into sales, because they couldn't get another job. But they figured if you don't know about sales and life in general, you seem to look at successful salespeople that they have something you don't have. They're taller, they're more intelligent, they have charisma, people like them, they're very aggressive, they have money, fancy cars. And if you have low self-esteem and you don't have any life experience, it is easy to cower under it. But in reality, if you're attracted to sales, not because you couldn't get another job, let me put it this way. Many people who are successful today were once in sales. And when they see a young person struggling in sales, they respect it, because they tried that and they didn't succeed. So when they see you struggling, they respect that. They really do. But if they see you have commission fangs and you haven't mastered the art, then you turn them off. So when you ask me what advice to give, let me go back to this. You need confidence. You have to believe in yourself. Don't suffer low self-esteem. You cannot do it overnight. Start out. I mean, if you look at some of the greatest CEOs and companies and big companies and Sears and Walmart, these were all salespeople when they started, but they mastered the art of doing everything. Another thing in talking to people about sales is you have to know what group you are addressing. Do they have 1 to 3 years of experience, 3 to 5, 8 to 10? Are they working in just one place, or have they worked in many places? What type of experience? So sometimes I need to know who I'm talking to so I don't get ahead of myself and talk about things that they haven't gotten there yet. But if you want to know the basics of it all, you need confidence when you start. You have to like people. You have to help liking them. You should like money. You should like freedom. There is something in England and Scotland called gazing. It's a term they had in the 18 and 1900s. It was the freedom that salespeople had. They were able to go out in the countryside and gaze and see things, going door to door. They exchanged recipes. They brought gossip. They were great conversationalists. Unfortunately, there were also Latin lovers too, and they were able to roam the countryside, finding girlfriends and lonely wives. Some of the reasons salespeople got a bad reputation. And since I'm on that subject, I'd like to bring up another thing. Sales is life. There's a book called, I think Jeffrey Gittermore wrote it. It's called To Be Human is Sales.
Yes, I've not read it, but yes, I know that there's a book, To Be Human is Sales.
And it truly is. And you know, some of us are just better at it than another one. I had a discussion with 3 sales offers about the born salesman. There is no born salesman. Some people just might have a better aptitude for it, and they will learn quicker, and they understand humans better, and they do very well. For other people, they don't understand what's going on, so I'll explain it real quick. To sell is human. When you meet people who tell you, I don't like salesmen, and you guys this and that, you have to remind them, you're a salesman, sir. And you're a terrible one. And I'll tell you why. When we were very young children, we had to sell ourselves to our friends. We had to get into a social group. It's called categorization. You had to sell yourself to your teachers so you won't get into trouble. You learned from your parents how to sneak around them. And that was a form of salesmanship. You want a cookie before dinner and they won't give it to you? Then you made a scene. That's called persistence. One of the things in sales that we know. So what I'm saying is, as you grow up, you have to sell yourself to your teachers to gain their favor. You have to sell yourself to your girlfriend. You have to sell yourself to a policeman who's about to give you a very large ticket.
Right.
And you know, it's just 2 examples. Here's the first guy. You're not giving me a ticket. I know the judge. Do you know who I am? That's not going to work. You know what works? Oh, please, sir. I was this and that and this. And you know what? You got away from it. You sold yourself out of a $500 ticket. You also sold yourself to get your job. So everybody really is a salesman. Unfortunately, nobody likes to hear the word because they don't understand it.
Right.
So at the very beginning, they say the oldest profession in the world, you know what that is. Well, salespeople are the 2nd oldest profession in the world. And to sell is human. So it shouldn't be very difficult, but some of us just learned our lesson a little quicker and faster than other people. We are able to ingratiate ourselves into them. Another word that I like to use is endear yourself. Make yourself likable. These are things that salespeople do. So to talk in general terms in sales, there must be 1,000 websites that talk about the generalities of sales. But here's what I've learned if the young people want to know something. I noticed on one of your topics, somebody had asked you about overcoming objections. That's usually a big problem for a lot of people. Well, it really isn't, because 85% of your problems in sales and getting objections, you can get rid of them by knowing basic things. And the first one is this: confidence. If you studied and have product knowledge, that gives you confidence. So when somebody says something to you that doesn't make sense, or it's an objection, or they don't like it, you have to be able to respond like that because you're prepared. You cannot be like a little bird on a telephone wire, flapping your wings, hoping to wait what the answer is, because it shows you're not ready and you're not prepared.
And you are not sold out to your product or the...
Yeah, you have to, you know, first of all, just study what your product is, have confidence in what it is. The other one is this: sell a product that has integrity, because you need integrity also. A good product. Now, say you don't have a choice and you're selling a bad product because you don't have a choice. That's okay also. You know why? It'll make you stronger. So, you know, hopefully you're selling a product you believe in. It gives you more confidence. You know what you're talking about because you studied the object matter, and off you go. When it comes to objections, this is pretty easy. It's amazing that there's 500 books about it and how to fight the customer and get the deal. And it's pretty easy. It's called trust. They say that when people meet each other, especially a salesman, they make up their mind within 5 to 10 seconds. Now, this is going to vary. Some people will tell you 2 seconds. Other people will take you 10 minutes. But
somebody would say 4 minutes. Like there's a book saying 4 minutes. Somebody would say 20 seconds. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And so what it is this: if they have met bad salespeople before, or they're just scared of a contact with a salesman, in their mind, because it's all emotional, they have made up their mind whether they like you or not before you really get into it. So you really have to be able to sell yourself. And one of the best ways to do it is to tell the truth. I'm here to sell you something. However, I am ethical. If you can't afford it, don't want it, can't need it, or don't trust me, I can't help you. And let them know that. And put your hand out and just tell them that. Fair enough. They should shake your hand. But at the same time, not only were you being sincere, they have to be sincere too. So now you have a level playing ground, and they'll start all over again. You have confidence because you studied and you have a product you represent. You are honest with the people, and you are asking them to be honest as well. The other thing, and this is the important one, of the 85% success rate, is the ability to play on a level, even playing field. For example, now give me a second. Okay. Most products and industries have already a built-in objection. Let's say a Rolls Royce. What do you think that would be? The objection? It would be money. Yeah, it would be money. Those cars cost, you know, $400,000.
Maybe, like, because I think when a person is going to buy a Rolls Royce, he would not bother about the mileage or the money, because he has already made up his mind that I have to do this. So I think he will not questioning about the mileage and this thing. So maybe the price of the cars, and maybe.
Most products have a built-in objection. And this is something that you should address immediately in the first 5-10 minutes. Tell them that you know what the objection is. Say it's a software program. Say it's an electronic purchase. Tell them up front what the objection is. It's too expensive. It doesn't match. There's no interface with my company. other people have
What
talked
about
bad
the
about.
updates? Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So you should confront the main built-in objection before you get started. That way you take away their thunder, because people like Vishnu, they like to come in with thunder and they're going to fight with you. Take it away from them, because here's why. Later on, if you're being sincere with them and they are being sincere, they're not going to be able to tell you things like a common thing that happens. I have to think about it. Or I need to talk to the accountant or the engineer. Don't fight them with that. These are logical things that people who don't have experience with salespeople, they want to try to throw your game off because they're not sure yet. And an objection, most people see it as a bad thing. Let me clear the air right now. You will not get a sale without an objection.
Right.
There has to be an objection. Otherwise, you wouldn't need salespeople. So
Right.
you have to get used to and understand to love objections, because that's how you're going to get your sales. But when they say, I have to think about it or talk to the accountant or my brother or my sister or my wife or something, you have to take it away from them. You have to say, I thought we talked about this already. I had already asked you at the beginning if there was another decision maker. You said no. And now don't take this wrong. Most people will agree with you, but when you ask for the order, they're gonna, do you know what a jack-in-the-box is? A jack-in-the-box is an old toy they had. It was a metal box with a wind-up on the side that made music. And you never knew when it was going to open and a head would come out, a toy.
Okay. I just don't know the name. I can visualize the.
So,
toy.
hang on, I gotta. One successful thing I've really had, and I'm proud of it, in training people, has been the jack-in-the-box. They all laugh and they all agree because they're on their presentation, they're trying to get the sale, and in the middle of nowhere, here comes the jack-in-the-box. But, I have to do this, I have to do that, this and that. Well, you already covered it. Ask them, do you have the money for this? Yes, I do. Fine, let me show you how it works. If they say no, show them anyway, but at least you know you're going to have the objection before they do. I need to have some self-respect for myself as a salesperson. I have to have some dignity. So it's okay to ask them. And here's the best part. The people like that, and they really appreciate it. Because most people, when they meet a salesperson, they think you're going to try to outwit them and cheat them and trick them and get you to sign on the dotted line. I heard that 50,000 times. And you know what, Himanshu? I have never seen a dotted line in my life. They're all solid. I've never seen it. So the people that have been dealing with unprepared salespeople have given us a bad reputation. And so that's one thing you want to do when you approach customers. You know, you've got confidence. You're not trying to trick them. You don't want to do that. Why do you want to trick somebody? Then you can't sell their friends or get reorders. You don't want to do that. So, you know, if you can sell yourself and you get people to trust you and you tell them what's going to happen, hey, I'm going to show you this, I'm going to show you that. It should help your company or solve a problem or do this and that. Do you have the money? Good. Okay, if you don't, that's good. Let me show you anyway, because later when you have money, maybe you'll consider my product. And just make it natural. You don't have to trick anybody. Now let me stop. There are many techniques and tricks. And people are going to think that salespeople are evil for having it, but you should be aware of this, and you already know this. It's because the general public has tricks themselves, and that's why we developed ways of selling that they don't like. You know why? Because they also want a good deal. So they're entitled to play tricks and lie and cheat, and you know, you don't have to go very far. Greed is a very big thing. Look anywhere in advertising, you will see free, 2 for 1, guarantee, warranty, money back, this and that. And there's a new word being used a lot in the last 10 years. It's called the infantilization of the consumer. The consumer has been led to believe he's right, he's entitled to everything, he should get everything his way. And that's a very infantile way of looking at life. But unfortunately, most people don't have experience in buying things, and they do get into trouble. And it's called infantilization. Now they have to pass laws everywhere against buying things and getting your money back because you didn't know what you were doing.
That's why they fear of buyer's remorse most of the time.
Yeah.
Buy.
Yeah. So, you know, just for a general advice for young people, sales is great. Boy, you'll make a lot of money. You'll make a lot of friends. You'll be able to have freedom in your life. You'll be able to grow more than anybody else. And remember this, a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer has to go to school for 4, 6 to 8 years. Yes? It costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of time. That's 8 years out of your whole life.
Right.
And you're going to study, and hopefully you're going to do well. But a salesman is one of the highest paid professions in the world. We make more than they do. And you know what's required? A pen.
Yes.
And here's the funny part. Some of them show up without a pen, and they make $600,000 a year. So what a funny business. A doctor, engineer, and lawyer, they cannot fail. If I'm a lawyer and I put out on my office that 80% of my clients are in jail, would you contract them? No. If the doctor said 80% of my patients have died,
right,
and the engineer says 80% of my bridges and buildings and projects have fallen down, you won't hire them. But guess what? A salesman will be applauded for that. All he needs is 20% success. Right. Everybody else needs 90, 95, 100, or you get criticized. But we get clapped for as long as we have 10, 20, 30, I like to say 20. The average sales rate in the world is 27%. So I'm allowed to fail 70% of the time. What more could you ask for? I didn't have to go to school for 8 years, pay back a student loan, spend nights up, or as a doctor and intern, I barely got 4 or 5 hours of sleep in the last 10 years. Then he has to go out and buy equipment, an office, get accredited, build up his clients, and then they want to sue him all the time. So now look at the salesman. I'm allowed to fail most of the time. All I need is a pen, and I'm going to make 5 times as much money as I want. That is something very important to remember when you get into sales. And it's not too good to be true, because you do have to study, and you do have to keep up on things, and you certainly, especially today, you have to be studying all the time. You can't give up. But for me, it's a lot of fun because I like to read, and I like to make money, and I like to make friends. And deep down inside, I'm a lazy person, so I enjoy sales because of it. So to make sure I didn't confuse anybody listening, the biggest problems most people have in sales is they are fearful, they don't understand the process, use the process, you're doing them a favor and they don't know it most of the time. Just like they don't recommend you do it anymore, it's politically incorrect and doesn't make sense anymore, but maybe for 100 years that I know of, we used to give medicine to children that tasted horrible. So they used to put cherry or something sweet inside. And they'd say, here's some candy. Now they take the medicine happily. And the same thing with sales. You know, a lot of things that are sold saved your life, made life easier. So what you're doing is you're doing a favor to a lot of people and your confidence. Just understand that you need that. You're not doing anything wrong. Many things that I say cannot be contradicted unless somebody wants me to give back the 10,000 sales I've made in 40 years or whatever, because I didn't invent any of this. Most of the things I'm writing in my book is the history of sales and how sales were done before and how the general public reacts to it. And there's usually a misunderstanding. You know why? It's because of the 80-20 rule. 80, you've heard of that. 80% of people in jail belong there. 20% are miscarriages of justice. 80% of priests do a good job. 20% are doing wrong things. Sales is the same thing. 80% of politicians really want to do something for their community. 20% want to steal. And it's the same thing in sales. So when somebody is ripped off by a salesman, or they got a shoddy product, or they weren't serviced properly, don't listen to that. Those are the bad people. Because unfortunately, people don't talk about the good things. Nobody wants to hear it. They want to hear the bad things. It's called human nature. And now that we're on the subject, I really suggest for youngsters, read as much as you can about human nature. It's called psychology. There is something funny I'll share with you. I have been studying sales, and for the last 10 years, I've been researching for my book. It's that I'm not in a hurry, that's why. But now I am, because I'm 66. I don't want to wait till I'm 80 till I publish it. One thing that really surprised me, especially because of the internet, I mean, there was only so much information available before the internet. A lot of young people don't realize that. We had to go to the library. You didn't have books laying around all over the place. They cost money too. But one thing I found out, because I researched, I wasn't finding enough information about sales and sales history. So I started looking, you know, Google. I started looking deeper and deeper and deeper. I was so surprised. I found so much information on sales in psychiatric journals, obscure psychiatric journals from universities. And what they were doing is saying, well, this is the way people are. This is the way they act. And the best way to explain a lot of it, they said, look at these salesmen. Look at what they're doing. How are they able to do that? Why do people say they'll never buy it and then a salesman comes in and sells it to them? So we have been the object of a lot of studies of psychiatrists and psychologists. How do you like that? And that's where I got.
It is very important. Like when we read disc personality or type of personality, sometimes. So it is very important to understand the psyche of the persons, because you have to be at the same frequency of the client. You cannot be D or when you are talking to a C client, C type of a person. So I think that's very important.
And one thing I discovered, and I don't like it, but I have to agree, is the old KISS principle, KISS, which means keep it simple, Simon, for new people, and dumb down. You've heard that expression. Cliff notes, cheat sheets, how to make things easier. It's too complicated. If you're doing a training class, don't confuse them. Well, I have a very big question for everybody. Should my doctor and lawyer also read dumbed down books if he's going to operate on me? I hope he read all the textbooks. They're not easy. So why should sales be dumbed down? I don't get it, but I do agree. it has to be on a level. And to understand the level very good, one thing that I thought really helped me in sales, and when I tried to tell other salespeople about it, they didn't agree. But now a lot of people are starting to agree because I see it on the internet. It makes me happy because I thought of this first years ago. It's called Maslow's hierarchy. Have you ever heard of it?
Not.
Maslow was a sociologist, philosopher, and it is spelled Maslow.
Okay.
Maslow's hierarchy. It pretty much shows you a scale of where you are in life.
Okay.
For example, at the very bottom, it's all about needs. For example, at the very bottom, you need food and shelter.
Right.
Everybody needs that.
Food, clothes, shelter, like they are the basic three things.
Yeah, and Maslow's hierarchy, as you go up, shows different needs because you're in a different stage of life. For example, maybe the guy who works in a store needs a house and food for his family, but the assistant manager already has food and a house. So now he has a farmhouse with other families. But the manager not only has food and house and a farmhouse, he has a boat. And it starts going up on wants and needs. And to understand personalities, it's probably more important to understand what they have and what they don't and how they see themselves compared to you. So in talking psychology of sales, I would definitely study Maslow's hierarchy and personally put yourself on one of those levels so that, and know it and be sincere with yourself. Because when you meet somebody below that level or higher, you will respect that position and incorporate it into your sales. But there is so much to say about.
And it will help us to understand their opinion also. Because
yes,
what they're saying for a purpose.
Yeah, it's from their experience.
Right.
Now, there are different personality types, and boy, all I can say is this: if you don't like reading, it's okay. I know a lot of great salespeople who don't read. They have a certain personality. They don't need it. In fact, it might hurt them. But for most of us, knowledge is power. What did Cicero say? Cicero was a Roman writer. He said, those who don't read forever remain a child. You will always be a child if you're not learning and reading. So those were my general terms, some of them anyway, for young people. I know different techniques. I am proud to say I've been able to walk into other offices where friends of mine were selling something, go straight in there and make a sale in less than 10 minutes without even knowing the product. But that comes from a lot of experience.
Yes.
And confidence.
We see this is a 10-minute, but we can't see is those 20-30 years which has shortened the time to 10 minutes now.
Yes. So that, I'm a firm believer that the world is much bigger than people think it is. There's a lot of information out there. Unfortunately, you can't have it all at once because it's like riding a bicycle. If I gave you a bicycle and I gave you a book, how to read it, and a CD and a tape and an audio visual, and I gave you a motivational seminar and everybody's clapping, well, you know what's going to happen when you get on the bike? You're still going to fall down. So for me, as much as we can learn from others and read books, you still have to find out for yourself a lot of things. And that's why reading won't help much unless you're actually involved in doing it. And I don't know, you ever seen those old Kung Fu movies?
Yes.
Where I like those. where the guy, there's a secret book on Kung Fu moves, and he's in the middle of a battle and he finds the book.
Yes.
And while he's fighting, he's reading the book, and that's how I feel about sales.
To find the Saturn.
Yeah, I'll tell you why, because I was given 5 families a day to sell them a timeshare. So this was a very fast-paced movement. Most of them didn't want a timeshare. It was seller initiated. The conditions were terrible. That's why timeshares are, you know, nowadays it's easier, but in the 70s and 80s, it was a new industry. So it was a tough one, but it made me real tough. And what helped me was reading the books, because the next, I would get excited. And then the next, oh, I didn't know that. That's a good idea. And then the next morning I'd try it out and I got a sale and I got another one. And I was doing better than the other people, but the other people, oh, I know everything and that's not true. And that has to be one of the worst things in the world, is to hear a salesman say, well, they didn't have an open mind. You're the one who didn't have an open mind. Your client doesn't owe you anything. You're the one who has to step up to the plate and do everything. And that's why people look up to salesmen. How did you do that? Well, because I have experience, that's why. And I have confidence.
So they are saying that a salespeople can give you either of the two things, a sale or an excuse.
Yeah.
So excuse can be like this.
Well, in my industry, we have an old saying, somebody got sold. I don't, you know,
Right.
You did because you had no, yeah, but but the guy told me, no, he sold you. It's that simple.
You have bought his story, because people buy stories. Either you are able to sell your story, or either you have brought his story.
Yes. You know, I got to tell you something. Do you know how timeshares work?
No.
Do you know what they are?
I'm not.
Timeshares are where you buy your vacations ahead of time.
Okay.
You know, let's say you pay $10,000. You have a week, a year paid for the rest of your life. And you can go to India, you can go to London, you can go to Seychelles, you can go to the Maldives. You can use your week anywhere because it's paid for already. You bought a week out of a condominium.
Okay.
It's like an airplane. You don't buy all 200 seats, Mr. Mittal. You buy one seat, and it's the same concept. You don't buy the whole condo because you don't travel all year long. You just buy what you need. Maybe you'll go with your family, say a week, a year at least. So instead of paying $2,000, $3,000 every time you go to a hotel room, you pay $10,000, and now you have a week every year for the rest of your life. That is a very, very large industry today. But when we started, there was less than 50 places that did that. Now there's 5,000. But the reason I wanted to mention it is I was in a convention in Las Vegas around 1989, 1990, somewhere around there. And I noticed there were a lot of people, not a lot, but I saw a group of Hindus. I could tell because the ladies had saris, and I could tell they were from India. And I was saying, I've never seen anybody from India in these conventions. You know what they were doing? They were doing what you're doing. They're trying to find something out. They knew it was a big business. And they flew from India. These are very rich people, by the way. They flew out there to learn what timeshares are and whether it was a good idea or not to take to India. And now, if you go to India, you can buy timeshares in Goa. You can buy timeshares everywhere in India. And I saw the people who started it. That's called an open mind. And so that's the industry I was in. But it's a very tough sale because typically you take somebody off the street in a tourist area, and typically it works on greed. They want to go on a boat ride.
There is no need of a product, so you sell on the desire.
Yes.
I can say.
Yeah, and the only reason they came to see us is because they were given big gifts. And in less than 2 hours, you were going to get 30% of the people you talk to give you $10,000 in less than 2 hours. And you're going to do that every day. And that's what I did for 35 years.
Wow.
So my sale was a little different than buying a computer or even a car or even real estate, because it wasn't your idea. It's called seller initiated. You know, you're walking down the street and somebody wants to sell you a puppet, or, you know, you were just minding your own business.
Right.
And somebody sold you something all of a sudden. Well, that's what timeshare was. And I am very proud
Basically,
to read.
you interrupt people, and like maybe on the internet also. It's not like they're coming to find you. Sometimes
Yes, that type of
you
sale
are
is,
interrupting them to.
yes, that type of sale is called seller initiated. It's a lot different. If you think you're a big shot car salesman, I have to remind that guy that people walked into his business. In timeshare, people don't walk into your business. You drag them in there and then you sell them something they don't want. So the type of sale that I did, we've been called, and I'm not trying to aggrandize myself. I'm very humble, by the way. We're called closers. People call us the best of the best, because in no part of their psyche would they believe they would ever be able to do what we do. But here's my side. It's a lot of fun. They don't understand it. The people I sold would come back next year or the next year, maybe a little, maybe a lot, but they would always bring me gifts. What does that tell you? Because I changed their life. Now when their children get married, they don't have to spend $5,000 on a honeymoon. They already have a week to send them somewhere, or somebody who's never been anywhere. It might even save your sanity. People need vacations. When we started selling it in the 70s and 80s, vacations were considered a luxury. Nowadays, it's considered a necessity. I could talk forever about it, but what I'm saying is there are different types of sales. I sold arts, antiques, collectibles. I sold cars, but I sold timeshares more than anything. Very tough business. So I don't want to scare anybody new, but there's a lot of myths out there. Boy, sales is fun. You know, sometimes I was able to take 1 to 3 months off, not because I had lots of money. You know, money isn't, you know, they say money isn't everything. I think the only people that should be allowed to say that, and they should have a license for it, is if you've never had money, you don't know what you're talking about. Because the only thing it changes is you have more money.
Right.
It shouldn't change you. But if you want to have fancy cars and a lifestyle and send your kids to college and be able to travel the world and see things, so something about Americans versus Europeans. Americans love to buy junk. Europeans like to buy experiences. So that just means to me, I don't know if it's they're better than us or smarter. That's not the point. The point is they take their kids to see the world. They travel all over Europe. They're just a little smarter because they saw more of the world. Americans, they like to fill their garage full of garbage, you know, bicycles and vacuum cleaners and gadgets and stupid things they don't need, can't want, or afford, and they owe it on their credit card. When in reality is, it's a big world out there. And we're only here so long. Have fun. That's what I like about sales. It gives you a lot of freedom.
Yes.
Now, some of us salespeople, we're workaholics too, because we like doing that. But me, myself, I've been able to have a lot of free time off. Don't get me wrong, it hasn't been paradise the whole time. this nice journey I've had has been punctuated by moments of sheer terror. You know, no money, economy fell down, lost a house, whatever. But we're also brave too. You know, we don't mind starting all over again. And for the young people, if you're all confused about money, I'll make something real easy for you. I don't know about India and Europe, but the average American millionaire had no less than 18 failures. When I read that the first time, I felt really good because the old school way of thinking is, oh, you tried something and you failed. Oh, I'm gonna, oh, poor thing, and this, you never should have done that. Get a real job. And
Yes,
but when
yes.
you find out most millionaires had an average of 18 failures, they didn't cry. They just said, I got more experience now, and now I know of another way not to do it. And they just keep on going.
That's why they are millionaires now. That is why they are millionaires now.
Yes. So, you know, you got to educate. I didn't know that before, and I still believe that baloney. But when I read that, I said, well, wait a minute, that's me. I'm always trying something new. I might not be a millionaire, but how about being happy? You know, I've seen millionaires that aren't happy. Their wives leave them, they lose their companies, they drink alcohol, they fire people, they have no friends, they don't go anywhere. And maybe they're happy with the money, but not for me. I mean, hey, let's face it, being poor is uncomfortable. And being rich doesn't mean you won't be comfortable, but there has to be a balance of what you're doing. And sales allows you to do that. You know, one thing that just really bothered me when I was growing up was this thing of working all the time, 9 to 5. And the only time off was Saturday and Sunday. And usually Saturday you had to do errands, and then Sunday you had to do what your wife wanted and the kids. And well, what type of way is that to live? So even though I did work 9 to 5 as sales, in between and all over, I've taken my family to a lot of places, and I've been able to pursue hobbies and see life and enjoy it, I think, a little bit more than other people. So if you get into sales, understand that I really think you'll be a happier person, especially if you're making money. And if you want to make money doing it, just, you know, like I said at the beginning, have confidence, learn how to be likable, learn as much as you can, and there's no real mystery to it. Just tell the people what you're doing, how you're going to help them and get it. I want to share something with you I read about a month ago. And please listen. I have read so many books. I'll give you an example. I used to be a rare book dealer on eBay. I used to buy and sell old magazines and rare books and out of print. I have sold, I don't know, 5,000 books and manuscripts, and I read most of them before I sold them.
Wow.
And I've been reading, yeah, I read 2 encyclopedias as a youngster, and not because I'm smart and motivated. It happened because I lived in the middle of the jungle in the Caribbean, so I had nothing to do.
So that was the best time pass you were having that time.
Yeah, and I read a lot, and God, now I forgot what I was going to tell you, but oh, let me tell you, if I'm impressed by something I read, it's because I'm impressed, and I've read a lot. I was listening to one of the top marketing people in the United States. And I don't mean the guy selling cell phone covers and cell chargers. I'm talking a guy who's responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars of sales in the United States. He's one of the top marketing professors of Harvard. And he said something that made a lot of sense to me. He said, most people buy something because it's going to do a job for them. And he quoted an experiment they did on how to sell more milkshakes at McDonald's. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you count 2 million milkshakes a day, that's a lot of money. That's like $20 million a month. I'll take a commission on that. But here's what they found out. They were trying to promote milkshakes during lunch and dinner. So they asked questions. One of the biggest secrets in the world of sales is the magic of asking questions.
Right.
I'm sorry, I had an operation there.
Oh.
And here's what he found out. They were selling more milkshakes in the morning because they were asking people, why did you buy a milkshake at 8 o'clock in the morning? Because I'm going to drive to work. And I want to be entertained while I drive to work. It's not the same with a coffee. A coffee, you have to stir it and you have to put it down and you have to be careful because it's hot. Milkshake isn't. So they found out that when their milkshakes were being sold in the morning, not in lunch and dinner. So they just promoted more of it and they made another $30 million a month. So that came from one of the top marketing guys from Harvard. And you got to listen to these people, whether you are against education or him or the institution. You know, if you're looking for money, pay attention to people making it and they might have something to tell you. We're probably over time. Anytime you want to ask specifics about an industry, I can't answer those, but I will at least in general terms give an opinion of what I think should be done.
So I think like what my takeaway from this interview is, so if there's advice for our new salespeople, so he should understand the basic things. One is everything starts from his mindset, because he has to love what he's doing rather than get into the shining syndrome and just jump into the sales. He should love what he's doing. One. Number two, one has to be simple rather than to be complex, because as I'm a firm believer that the complex job in the world is to be simple. And that's what you are saying, as in like, if you are simple enough, if you are likable, if you love people, and if you are not using too many tricks, so you are doing a good job, or you maybe end up with some good results. And third is, sales is a learnable skill. Like, these are my takeaway from this interview, if I should give advice to our new salespeople.
I can put it in writing, I can simplify it, but it's pretty easy. You're in sales because you like people, you want to help them. And if you help them get what they want to get, you're going to get some money for helping them. And it's not complicated. Ask questions, find out what they need, how they're going to get it. Be sympathetic. I think the best salespeople have empathy, not sympathy, empathy. And they care. I do anyway. I help people all the time, whether they pay me or not. So I can't make you like people. I can't make you be empathetic. They say people won't change. They are hardwired a certain way. But we do change gradually sometimes, and we can learn from those experiences, especially if you're making money and you're having fun doing it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your time for today's interview. I'm obliged that you joined me, and we will keep in touch. I'll invite you again, maybe for some another topic. And I would love to hear you, sir. Like, I can sense the experience from your talk, and even I learned a lot from this interview.
Oh, great. Listen, if you want, I can share some sales techniques on the next time.
That would be great, sir. That would be great. So
the sales techniques that, like I said at the beginning, we talk a lot about sales, but then they leave the seminar and they still aren't going to sell anything. I have some techniques that people can take with them tomorrow and get a sale with it.
Wow.
The little tricks of the business.
I'll surely connect with you, and I'll find out your dates, and we will surely come up in the next interview for that.
It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for inviting me.
Same here, sir. Same here. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.